Hi everyone, Jeff Meyer, broker and owner of Star One Realty Group.
And I'm Michelle Rabe, general manager and team leader.
I'll be the one that comes to your home for the listing appointment. Once your home is listed, my listing team goes to work. My job is to get you into our marketing program. It's been successful for over 20 years.
I'm the closing specialist, and my team goes to work once we have an accepted contract. I make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Last year, we had the pleasure of helping over 200 families list and or buy a home.
In some of these homes, we had both the buyers and the sellers.
And what's best about that, Jeff, is when we have a buyer for our seller, the commission is only 3%.
Now remember with us, if you're not happy, you can cancel at any time. Today for Versailles and Timber Oaks, beautiful Timber Oaks. Beth, how did everything go today?
It went very nicely, thank you.
Great, thank you. Tell us real quick, why did you hire Michelle and I to sell your home?
Because we saw your face all over the town on the benches, and we saw your commercial, so we thought that you would know the area.
Thank you very much. So then we found the buyer for your house.
Yes.
And Bruce and Logan had the buyer for the house, so your commission was only the 3%.
Yes, which is very nice.
Which was great, saved a little over $3,000 in commission. And so the home inspection, we only had to do some duct work or something, so that was taken care of. I had a handyman take care of that. Mm-hmm. And then the closing here today with Carolyn, how did that go?
Very smooth and friendly and easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Smooth and friendly.
Smooth
Isn't
and friendly.
that nice?
That's what we
That's
try
great.
to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Carolyn, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you at the next closing. We're on the road today with Ron Morris. Ron, how are you?
Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. Ron is our mortgage lender with the mortgage firm. Ron, tell everybody how we met.
Actually, kind of a funny story. I had a buyer that ended up with you were both sides, the listing and the buyer side. Transaction went extremely smooth. You were somewhat impressed, I guess impressed enough to give me the time of day.
Right.
And I've been bugging them for business ever since, and that was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I think it was about 7 years ago. Yeah, it was a house down in Tarpon.
And I like to say you've been stuck with me ever since.
We've been stuck with Ron ever since, and Michelle really works well with Ron. He does a great job for everything that we do. So Ron, take us from contract to close.
Actually, once we get a contract, once you or Michelle email me that contract and they're under contract, basically I pick up the ball and roll with it from there. Now, in the perfect world, I've already had them pre-approved. That's the perfect world, rarely happens. But that aside, I at least have talked with them and had them pre-approved. So I know their credit's okay, their income's probably okay. Whether I've seen documentation at that point or not, I don't know. But at that point, if I haven't, I'm getting all that information in. So I'm verifying debt ratio, running a credit if I haven't already. Typically I have, but not necessarily, kind of depends. But once I get all that information in, everything's electronic these days, even with your contract, I think. So what I'll do at that point is email everything out to the buyer, click, click, click on the computer, they sign everything, get everything back. And that's really when the process starts. Kind of get everything over to our processor. We do the back stuff, the title search, we're verifying employment, where all that kind of stuff behind the scenes is going on. Once we get all that in, including the appraisal I might add, at that point we get it all in a neat little bundle and send it to the underwriter. Underwriter's the one that kind of signs off on that deal. They review it, they want to make sure I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's. If I have, get it clear to close and we can set up the closing and go on. Realistically, more times than not, there are a couple other items we need to do. So we need, again, dot the I's and cross the T's. It may take a couple extra days, not a big deal. This is all within a 30-day time frame, I might add, is easily. At that point, once you hear anybody say clear to close, it's time to start packing. It's time to start almost celebrating a little bit as well. Because at that point, we're moving that file over to the closing department, and then there's a 3-day time frame once we have it clear to close for the CD. What's the CD, you ask? closing disclosure. We used to call that HUD in the old days. Now we call it a CD. And that basically gives that buyer the final precise numbers to the penny, I might add. At that point, I'm talking about doing a wire, having them get in touch with the title company, take care of the wire. 3 days later, we're sitting down at the title company signing papers. And then at that point, they can keys in their hand.
We like that part. Ron, we do a lot of open houses, we do a lot of advertising, we meet a lot of buyers. We had a call today. We can show one of our listings this afternoon. So we don't have a lot of time to talk to the people before we're meeting them. What I'd like for you to do is take us through the pre-approval and a pre-qualification.
Sure, and there's a really large difference between the two. So I'm kind of glad we're talking about it so everybody kind of understands that. I call it a pre-qualification. Basically is me on the phone or face-to-face, but usually over the phone, talking to the client about what's your credit score. And believe it or not, a lot of people are really in tune to that, whether it's with a credit card on a statement it has it, or they go to Credit Karma or whatever. So a lot of people know their credit score, which is helpful to me.
Right.
So if they tell me their credit score, and again, I'm verbally talking with them on the phone going, what do you make? So if it's, hey, I make 50 grand a year, my credit score is 720 or whatever it may be, then I can run the numbers. And basically that's a pre-qualification.
Right.
I've not documented anything. A pre-approval is when you start sending me your pay stubs, your tax returns. If I haven't run credit already, I've run credit. Huge difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification.
Right.
Now, I would like to explain, there's a lot of people, and I know you and I have done this, seen this a lot. There tends not to be a sense of urgency for some buyers. After I do the pre-qual, okay, Jeff, go find a home for them. They're out looking at homes. I immediately will email them. I call it their homework list. It's a little list of documents that I need. And again, it's the tax returns, the pay stubs, it's all that normal stuff.
You got to have this right away.
And most people don't see that urgency until, well, I'll do that when I find a house. That can bite you. So I really try to stress to them, get it to me before you sign a contract. Some do, some don't. The issue can come up like this, and I'll give you a couple real quick examples with that. I've done a pre-qualification, they're out looking for a home, they're procrastinators, which happens, so I haven't seen anything yet. So now they're under contract. They start sending me things. And when maybe even if I've run credit and I have all their bills, I have their income, but on their pay stub, there's a child support loan on there because it's auto deduct from there. But they don't think to tell me because they don't write a check every month. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it's not on the credit report. Well, and I've seen child support bills or alimony, big bucks. So that could totally change how much somebody can qualify for. Sure. And I want to share one other example that just happened yesterday. I'm talking to the wife of a husband and wife. She told me that her husband had filed bankruptcy. It's a second marriage, not that matters. And when I ran credit, it didn't show up on the credit report, which happens sometimes. There's another thing we do when you're under contract called fraud guard. It's going to come up, so we're going to know about it. Fortunately, she was very upfront with me and told me about it. When I ran credit, it's not there, and I needed that date. The date is really important. She thought it was 2 years, but maybe 3. And that's a big difference. So I had to have her track down that bankruptcy papers, and it had the date right on it, and we're able to go forward now.
Right.
But if she didn't think to tell me this, I didn't see it on the credit report, it wasn't there. It could have really created a problem down the road. I can't stress enough, get me the documentation when I ask for it. Nobody wants surprises in this business, so we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. Now that's different than the final approval. Once we have everything in, including the appraisal, the whole 9 yards, then it goes to that underwriter and they approve the loan. So that's different, and they're going to approve it subject to, you having down payment funds or whatever the case may be. So there's a big difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval, and difference between pre-approval and approval. So in a nutshell, that's kind of it.
Okay. Ron, towards the end of the contract process, the appraiser has to go out and appraise the house. Talk about that for just a minute.
Absolutely, and I'd like to share this too. As the seller and or listing agent of that property, they're coming. The appraiser's coming out. Just a little heads up, a little tip, clean it up a little bit. I mean, it doesn't have to be that they're not out there to make sure there's not things on the walls or anything, but make the bed, make sure this thing's clean. You'd be surprised at what I see. I'm not saying that's going to affect value, but but it could. So kind of clean up a little bit. The appraiser just wants to make sure that whatever that sale price is on that property, the home's worth it. In a nutshell, that's what the appraisal is all about.
Ron, thank you very much for coming over and seeing us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Ron, as we said, has been doing our mortgages forever. Give him a call, Ron at the mortgage firm. Ron, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeehaw, everyone! You're jamming with Bruce and Michelle, and today we're going to focus on the band Styx.
Correct.
And Bruce, what do we know about Styx?
So, just a little correction there. Not only are we going to cover Styx, but we're going to cover Dennis DeYoung also.
Okay.
Because we've seen him in concert, and he is separate from Styx.
Right, and so what's the story behind two Styx bands?
So-
They both were awesome.
The reason being, I'll give a little bit of history here, is back in the early 70s, 72 up in Chicago, Dennis DeYoung and the Pinoza brothers, who were twins, they formed the band Styx. And an interesting fact on them is back when the twins were 12, back in 61, and Dennis DeYoung was 14, they started jamming in their garage, and then 11 years later they formed Styx.
Okay.
So through the years, other band members joined. You had James Young, who's JY, he's on the guitar, and then 75 Tommy Shaw joined. Well, with all that, there was a lot of tension. Well, you know, all these bands, creative differences and all. So they were very popular in the 70s. Here was my first Styx album, Equinox, and one of the kids at some point drew on it. And then they had Grand Illusion and Pieces of Eight, Kilroy was here, Cornerstone, and many others. I've got like 7 or 8 of their albums, and on the back of my shirt's all their albums.
I'll turn around. So
Yours has it too.
What's on the back of my shirt?
It's all the albums other than their live ones. These are all their studio albums. There's about 15 of them on there. So in the 80s, like I said, they all parted ways, and then in the 90s they got back together. Well, it got worse and worse, and in 99, Dennis DeYoung, who was the founder, kind of got tossed from the band, and he's not shy to let you know it. He's 72, and we saw him in concert, and he's got a good band around him, and for 72, I hope I'm moving half that good. He's just all over the place, but, you know, so you got the sounds of Dennis DeYoung and the music of Styx, and then you still have Styx.
Right.
And highlighting for Styx right now, I would have to say, is their keyboard player and singer, Lawrence Gowan. He does the behind the back.
He's
he
amazing.
Spins around with it. He's just fantastic.
Right. And then we don't want to forget Tommy Shaw, ladies. Remember him? Beautiful blonde hair on the guitar, just.
Still looks like he's in the 1980s.
He still looks the same, and
one funny.
He's like 60s.
Yeah, he's definitely in his 60s. One funny thing was Dennis DeYoung's band now. There's actually 2 Tommy Shaw lookalikes.
Yeah, and I know we kept looking at them, and we saw this Dennis DeYoung at Ruth Eckerd Hall.
Yep.
And then we might want to explain why we're wearing our cowboy hats today when it's 100 degrees out there. So you want to give us a heads up on why we're doing that?
So when we saw Styx was back in late February or March, and it was out at the Strawberry Festival. And if you know the area, you know that's out in Plant City and kind of a rural area, and like Rochelle just indicated, we were freezing.
It was so cold, and we were at the high schools. What high school was it?
Well, I think it's more of a stage. I don't know that it's the high school.
Oh, okay, but it was at the high school.
Yeah, the property's at the high school, and we were way up in the stands, and we had gloves on to try and tape some of the songs, and I haven't been that cold since I was a kid in Wisconsin.
But we went to the Strawberry Festival, which is a big festival out in Plant City, and they had the best strawberries, and we got to see animals, and
we ate our way around the fair.
Yeah, we literally ate from when we walked in until we left, and that was great. And then
everyone carries out a flat strawberries. You gotta buy one.
Definitely so. So it's a big.
So I do have a trivia that came up.
All right, let's
In
go.
what movie did Adam Sandler tell the girl he was trying to court that when he was a kid he loved Styx, and he went to their concert and they pulled him up on stage and he got to do the voice of Mr. Roboto?
Should I know this?
You should know
I
this.
should know this.
And I tried the line.
going through all the Adam Sandler movies, but the one recently.
He's like, it was so cool, they pulled me up on stage, I got to do the voice of Mr. Roboto. So when we were out at Plant City, I was hoping they'd do it, but we were so far back and up in the stands that wasn't happening.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Big Daddy.
Oh, it was Big Daddy. That's correct. That's correct. Because I was thinking in Grown Ups, it wasn't Grown Ups. First, we wanted to add to this segment maybe some concerts that are coming up that maybe y'all don't know about, that you might want to go see. So who are we going to go see?
So we've got a bunch coming up. August we have Queen with Adam Lambert.
That'll be good.
October we've got ZZ Top out at the Amphitheater out at the fairgrounds, and also with them is Cheap Trick, which we mentioned. We've also got The Who coming up, I think in October. And we're just looking, we're actually going to do another comedy. We're going to go see Bill Engvall down at Ruth Eckerd.
And he's really funny.
And
he's
also
a little bit older than us, but but he's funny because we can relate to him.
Here's your sign. So also we're looking and bouncing around some ideas with Ted Nugent and a couple others, and
let's not forget we're also going to go see Sammy Hagar, who's one of our favorite. If anyone hasn't seen, doesn't have access TV on your cable, he has a show called
Road Trip with Sammy Hagar
Yeah.
on Sunday nights at 8
Right,
p.m.
and he's from Van Halen, so we're gonna go see him. That'll be fun too.
Yep, he's going to be with his Circle Band, which is Michael Anthony, original member of Van Halen. That's over at Amway Center over in Orlando in November 9th.
I'll be driving.
And we're tossing around the idea in September, heading up to Atlanta to see Leonard Skinner. They're not coming into Florida on this final piece because their last concert last year was in Jacksonville, their
Right,
hometown. So
right.
don't forget, as our favorite band would say, go out and see your local bands. That's where it's all at. Look up your local bars.
Well, I know Pete's
Grand Central.
Pete's Grand Central on Saturday night. They have live music.
Yeah, late summer rolls around down Sims Park. They'll start having the concerts in the park like once a month, probably September timeframe. They'll start up when it cools down a little bit, and those will go through April. And those are all free. The only one we had to pay for was when Eddie Money was there, and at 30 or 40 bucks, I would have paid double. It was a great show, about maybe 1,000 or so people, but go out and see your local bands, support them.
Yeah. So everyone, this is Bruce and Michelle, and we are
Rockin' Florida Real Estate.